a while. In fact, it was about 2001. We got a new boss, and his name was Donald Trump. Now, is it Leafy? Is that your name? That's a great name. Leafy, do you know what Donald Trump always says? Remember his show he used to have? Remember what his favorite saying was? You don't? So you never saw me do the sports? I'm devastated. Does anybody know who Donald Trump is? He's probably a good guy for Leafy to know because he's running for president. Anybody who know Donald Trump, heard of it? You know what his favorite saying was, an entrepreneur? You're fired! Yeah, that's what he said to me. You're fired. You're like, oh, I know him. So I became an accidental manager, an accidental salesperson, and when I started into managing and sales, I started managing people like, well, my dad did. Some of you have seen that training because some of you, might manage your employees like your dad or your mom did. And I thought to myself, there's got to be an easier way. So I discovered personality testing. Now, last night I was doing some research, and thanks to Jason, he erased all this, but it's good, I'll verbalize it. Charles Moulton, in the early, he was born in the late 1800s, he lived till 1944, roughly there. He developed the DISC personality assessment. But here's what I found out is, it's not a personality assessment. Now remember, you don't have to write a lot of this stuff down. More than anything, this is just to give some of you that have been here for a while. Beth is like, yeah, I lost a bet. I got to keep coming in here and seeing Dave. But it's just a little bit of the background because our mission today is for you to find a sense of yourself. So Julie, you'll have a sense of yourself. Remember, we talked about that. Even when I say Julie's name, she's like, he's not going to make me stand up and talk, is he not? But Julie's sense of self is, I'm comfortable being compliant and steady. But what we're going to discover is when Julie works with somebody else, like I say, Julie, I want you to hang out with Beth, and I don't want Beth to say a word. I want you to do all the talking. How's that going to be, right? But it's going to be a good experience because you're going to discover your sense of self. We need to get to know ourselves. So that's our mission, because the reason we want to get to know ourselves is we need to know others. And as Abbase's told me, it helps him deal with situations with his employees. Abbase, you shared with me about a month or so ago, you said, here's how the training has worked with me, in particular your group of employees. Maybe just share that story. If you haven't met Abbase before, I just really enjoy his enthusiasm. And if I were to recommend him to someone, I'd say, I just like how he's always trying to make it better for his people. He's not trying to make it better for him, but he's always, let me come up with an idea to help my people. He works in the, I'll call it the marketing part of Winco. So Abbase, share kind of the story, how you've used some of these tools and techniques. As we say, you need to know yourself, but we need to know our employees better. Share kind of the example how that works for you. Okay. And what would be an example of something you learned and you took it back and said, hey, everybody, I'm all pumped up. I went to training. Of course, they're like, oh, I hate the first month of Friday because Abbase's all excited and he's going to teach us something. Okay, good. So that's kind of our mission. So some of you have already done this, but it's just a good reminder for me, and it's going to be good for you. So you guys are going to team up in teams of two, and I don't want you guys talking too much here. No, wait a minute. I want you two talking a lot. So teams of two. I want you to discuss today, and some of you have been through this DISC training before that we've done, so you know what it is. There must be a reason you came back other than, well, I have to if I'm going to get my 14 credits, or, I didn't have anything better to do. Why did you come to class today? But more importantly, what are you hoping to take away? And the first thing I want you to ask the person next to you is, hey, what's your hometown? So let's just practice. Chloe, I'm kind of shy, but I'm going to try to. Hey, Chloe, my hometown's Great Falls, Montana. Remind me where your hometown is. Napa. Where'd you go to high school at? Napa High. Now, I have ESPN. I can read her mind. You're a Bulldog. Is that right? Napa High Bulldog. Absolutely. And what hospital were you born in? Mercy Medical. And what would you say is your biggest fear? Okay. Chloe, would your biggest fear be talking in public? Would it be spiders or afraid of heights? What do you think of those three? Talking in public. Okay. No, I didn't know that. Was a lucky guess. Okay. So I want you to have that discussion, and then it's going to sound something like this. Hey, Abba, say, you've been through this training before. Why did you come to class today? Okay. Okay. What's the one takeaway you hope to have today? So you're leaving, and let's just say you happen to swing by the HR office, and you guys already know my relationship with Val. And Val says, hey, how's Tester doing? I keep hiding from him, but I need to show up. What was your takeaway today, Abase? Okay, sounds good. Now, if I'm coaching Abase, I would tell him this. You can't motivate your people, right? You have to ask them what? How do you want to be motivated? That's just a reminder. I can't motivate anybody. It's like I tell my kids. I can't make you eat. I can't make you go to bed. I can't make you study. How is it I motivate you? What's that look like? And I have to ask them, how do you want to be motivated? So great takeaway. So let's go ahead. It'll be a good chance for you to meet the person next to you. If you already know them, maybe share with them something you don't know about them. Brad, real quick, remind me where your hometown is. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. Okay, great. Would they run you out of town or what happened? Yeah, a little tricky. Very good. Where'd you go to high school? That's what I thought. All right. And they're the battlefield warriors. All right, get to work, everybody. No, I made that up. All right. Would you mind, Don? Would you mind, Dan? Would you flip that light switch right beside you just so our crew in the front? Hey, Beth, of course nobody's going to sit in those chairs. Those are good personality chairs, right? Nobody's going to sit there. But isn't that funny? It's like nobody's going to. We sit there, we'll be in trouble. Yes. So how did your night go? Pretty good over there? Yeah. Wow. I didn't know they had like a. Yeah, there was Billy on the violin. A buddy of mine was selling cars there. It was kind of cool. I know. I was like, oh, I don't like quiet anyhow. So. All right, about 60 more seconds. Make sure when I ask you, say, hey, why did you come today? And more importantly, what are you hoping to take away? All right, 30 seconds. Count you down. It's a good crew here today. Now, men, where's Megan's hometown? Here? So where did you grow up at? Where'd you go to high school? Capital. Then where'd you go to high school? Marshall High School? Capital Eagles, right? Okay, I'm going to count you down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, good group. You guys are my outstanding, I almost said precipitators. That would be like weather, wouldn't it? Precipitation. I always tell people I'm not a weatherman, but I'm married to one. So I don't know if you guys know my wife, Claudia Weatherman, but that's her last name. Isabel, share with me why you came today. Now, part of it is you had to come, right? Yes, you're compliant. So think about that with Isabel. She follows the rule. And usually, isn't that where you sit? Isn't that your spot you sit? Or you guys are usually back one. No, you guys don't rotate around a little. Normally, this group here is right. This is men's spot. And you knew I was here, right? Men didn't want me to pick. Well, the hard part is, normally I think Kirby and Lowell sit right there. So this is really hard for our compliance today. Now, Beth is excited. Hey, I get to move around and meet new people. It's awesome. So share with me what you're hoping to take away today. Okay. So what might we guess, those of us that have been here for a while? So men, we're working with Isabel. What might we guess her personality style is? Okay, great. So it's probably, in Isabel's case, I don't necessarily want to put her on the spot. Now, Isabel, I asked you an answer, and I need an answer. And then she'll go to where she's at under pressure. So I need her in her natural state. Because remember, I want to know how you view yourself is, are you passive or are you active? Do you see the world as favorable or antagonistic? Those are some of the questions that we're going to have. So maybe I might view you as passive, but it might be active. But more importantly, you want to give me what answer do you want to give me? What answer do you think Isabel wants to give me? There you go. She wants to give me the right answer. So I can't force, so I've got to give her some options. So one might be, Isabel, let me ask you this question. When dealing with personalities, would you say you struggle more with, or you can either say struggle or opportunity, do you struggle more with the dominant personalities, the Donald Trump, the influencers, the Jay Leno, or the compliant, the Spock, the influencer? So when you say influencer, tell me more. Okay. 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 So did you notice how we walked through that a little bit to make it comfortable? Now, we still don't have the answer, but if I'm listening to what's not being said, so write that down on your note. Listen to what's not being said. Isabel just made a statement. I don't know if you heard it, but she said, I've got to get down to their level. Okay, now we have to be careful with that. That's okay. But Isabel, think of the compliant is what level? Or the steady. That's the right level. The influencer, that might be down to that. And if you happen to be an influencer, like Beth is, Beth, what did you hear when she said that? Okay. Now, guess who didn't mean that? So if you asked, is it? No, she's just stating the facts. Because that takes a lot of extra time. I just need to give you a job, get it done. Really? I got to pat you on the back? Are you serious? The flip side is Beth's like, well, it wouldn't hurt you to have a conversation. Okay, so that's kind of our mission, our discussion, where we're going with this. Lowell he's an influencer. He's a lot of times he yells and screams during class, so be prepared. If there's noise, it's Lowell, okay? Now, remember, that's your shoe size, is your personality. So it's important to know I don't expect any of you to change your shoe size. That's what I really enjoy about you, Isabel, is your shoe size. Beth, I love your shoe size. That's important. I don't want any of you to change your shoe size. I want you all to stay your shoe size. But as Chloe had to do once, she had to take, Chloe, remind me your shoe size. Okay, compliant. And she had to deal with somebody that was dominant, so she had to become that shoe size. She just had to have 10 seconds of insane courage that changed her life. I don't know if it changed her life, but she found out, hey, I'm still here. Nobody did anything to me. Wow, wasn't that a great feeling? Then she went back to her shoe size, which is okay. So Lowell, in your case, why did you come today? Well, we have to. The first Friday of every month. I've got it in my, and I've set me a couple of reminders. So I'm here because I have to. What do you hope to take away? Okay. What would you say, Lowell, is your biggest challenge? Would it be dealing with dominance, influencers, or maybe steady? Okay, tell me more. I don't remember what she said. I know. You know me, I never listen. Yeah. So remind me what she said. Okay. Okay. So now let me share this with everybody. Why did I want Lowell to say what he heard? Why did I want him to use, because it's different. See, did you hear her say the word coddle? No. So I want you to practice this with the people that work in your department. Do you hear what I say? Tell me more. That's all you have to do. And guess what they'll do, Chloe? They'll tell you more. Now we have to be careful when we tell Beth, tell me more. Okay, but that's okay because Beth, that's her love language. But we heard coddle over here. We heard get down to their level here. And we heard Beth going, hey, when we're done, Lowell, we're going to duke it out. But we have to pick up all those personalities. Okay, cuddle. All right. What would we guess? Is this your first class that you've been to? Or have you been to others? First management class? Okay. What's going on? But this is the first time you've been with this group, right? Okay, what would you guess this person's personality is? If you had to guess, just based on this. Don't look at her. Look at this. Beth, you have a smile on your face. Tell me more. Well, why would you think that? Okay, and I don't know that, but don't I have to observe that? How about her name? Okay? But we have to observe that and we have to acknowledge that. That's important. Because in our mind, we might say, for crying out loud, is that really, we have to say, Leafy, what a great name. Tell me more about that. Okay, but we have to start. So I need you to start listening to what's not being said. Let's sneak, Megan, I'm just going to ask you because it's our first time that we've met. Megan graduated from, I think, Capitol High School, right? Drank a cup of coffee in Portland. Now you're back here. What are you hoping to possibly, why'd you come today? Hmm. I better pick up my game, huh? Yeah. Yeah. So let's pretend that you're done with the class. So the class is all over, and you said, you know what, that was really a good class because what happened? What it is. Okay. Dan, I'm going to ask you to flip that light switch real quick, then I'll just the first one. There you go. Dan, remind me, where's your hometown? Okay. Where were you born? Mhm. All I know is that this ain't Kansas anymore, Dan, right? Okay. So tell me more. How did you get from Pratt to Boise, America? Wow. Cool story. Were you by yourself or what happened? Dan doesn't know who his parents are. He just got in the back of a car, and here we are, right? Well, Dan, welcome to the great state of Idaho. Yes. How come you came today? Yeah. Great, great. And like we said, the most important thing is a sense of yourself. But the first thing is we have to see ourselves as a picture. How do we get our personality? So there's 4 personality styles, and we'll go through these, but I'll hit you real fast with the 4 personalities. So Abba, say, what's the D stand for? Dominant personality. Chloe, do you remember what the I stands for? Influencer. Beth, what's the S? And then the compliant. Now here's the question. How did we become this? How did this all happen? For me, and some of you have seen this picture, it happened on this farm in Montana. This Model G was my granddad's tractor. Well, actually, it was my great-granddad's, Fred Pearson. Now, Fred Pearson's place was back over here on the high line of Montana. They had this tractor that covered roughly 60 acres every day. So they farmed 6,000 acres. You know how long they'd have to spend just covering the land on that. So my granddad, he kind of got tired. He's kind of like me. He's an influencer. Look, if I spend all that time in the tractor, how am I going to talk to people? He needed to get a bigger what, Beth? Bigger tractor. There you go. And this is the red barn when he got the big tractor that he hid the new tractor behind. And Abisai knows the story. See, he hid the tractor on this side. How come he hid the tractor? Remember why? Anybody remember why he hid the tractor? And by the way, this is the new tractor. This was the 705. It was a diesel. This covered 75 acres a day. He didn't want his parents to know that he had spent what, Leafy? Yeah. Say again, Megan? Yeah, I didn't want to spend money. We're not supposed to spend money. This is a depression. Yeah, well, this tractor was 1967, but remember, when you've lived through a depression, what do you have to prepare for? Yeah, so they bought this tractor, and they hid it behind the barn so Mom and Dad wouldn't see it. Now, the irony is, you fast forward to today, or to last year, my son was helping my dad out. He was cutting down some hay or something, and my dad gave him $100 for doing it. It was $100 in cash, $100 bill to be exact. And my dad said, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. Because remember, what have we learned to hide the tractor behind the barn? Now, I'll show you this. Will you promise not to tell anybody I showed you this picture? I'll need you to raise your hand, okay? All right. This is the new tractor. That's my dad. Now, guess what I'm not supposed to tell anybody, and you think I'm kidding. Don't tell anybody we got a new tractor. Because, Brad, what might people think about us? I don't know. I'm just not supposed to tell anybody. I'm not. Although a couple of my buddies said, "Hey, what's that like? Can you show?" They thought it was really cool. I went, "No, I'm not. I don't know why I'm not supposed to tell you, but I'm not." So here's what I've learned in my family. I'm not supposed to talk about money. If I get new things, I'm supposed to hide them. I'm not supposed to ask people about acreage or land, that kind of stuff. Those are things that I learned in my family. And ironically enough, what do you think my son, who's 17, learned last summer? What's he not supposed to talk about? So last night, a company, a global company, has asked me to start training for them. I'm pretty excited about that. Wow, my new book came out. I'm going to train a global company. And my daughter goes to school with the CEO of the company. So guess what I told my daughter? She goes, "That's going to be awesome. I can't wait to tell Sailor. You're going to be working for her dad." Guess what I told Claire? And she's like, "Great, Dad. We can hide the tractor behind the barn." Oh, that hurt. That hurt. So back in your groups, and some of you have done this, but it's a good reminder, what did your parents teach you? Mine taught me to hide the tractor behind the barn. Don't tell anybody. Don't say anything. Everything's going to be okay. What did your folks teach you? And the first question might be, what did they teach you about money? What did they teach you about when you go out and you meet with, were kids meant to be, and is it Allie? Is that right? Allie, remind me, kids are meant to be seen and not heard, or heard and not seen. What were you taught in your family? Tell me more. What were you taught? Oh, there's a good one, right? Clean. Did you have to clean up your plate? Yeah, you know his plates are getting bigger and bigger. Dad, I don't know why I'm big for my age. Well, what did my dad always teach? Clean up your plate, son, because they're starving kids. I can't remember where they were. Is that where? Okay, yeah, we're related. Sis, how you been? I've met my sister. That's awesome. Yeah, because they're starving kids somewhere along that lines. What they teach you about money? Oh, not a lot. That's okay, but we have to kind of make it up as we go. So that's how we develop our personalities. So get back with your teammate. Dan and Julie have this discussion. Mom and Dad taught me about, and what I want you to find is some version of your tractor that was hidden behind the barn. And I'm proud of this because you know how men are. They got to stand by their tractor. So there's Dave in front of the 705, all right? So take about 5 or 6 minutes, and the great way to start this would be, men, what did your parents teach you about money? And then take it from there. Sarah and Allie, training wasn't that bad, was it? Okay, all right. We will break at the top of the hour so everybody knows at 10 o'clock, or I guess it'll be 11 o'clock, we'll take a 5-minute break at the top of the hour. Be frugal. Were they both like that? What was your mother like? So that's code for. So did you notice, Leafy? The question was, my dad was frugal, and did you hear when I said, "What's your mom like?" And did you notice he didn't say she spent a lot? What did he say? She likes antiques. Now that can mean a whole bunch of things, but we have to listen to what that means. Yeah. Right. But it could also mean that mom, yeah, and remember what was code for, and Lowell, it's like we're talking in front of you behind your back, but that could be code for mom bought antiques. When he said antiques was mom spent money. Could be code, but I don't have any idea. But that's things that we have to look at. Dad was frugal, mom liked to buy antiques. Now I have no idea what that means, but I want you to get in the habit of listening to your team when they say something. You go, whoop, not either go, oh, your mom spent a ton of money, or mom window shopped, or whatever. Lowell, when you say mom liked antiques, tell me more. Yeah, so tell me more about that, just for fun. Yeah, so tell me more. You said mom liked antiques. Tell me more. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So just discovering, and then we have to allow him, because we can't fill in the blank. We want to fill in the blank, but we just have to let him, because what's an egregious amount? Now, just by Lowell using that adjective, I have to say he's compliant. Because as a dominant, I mean, did you spend a hell of a lot? An egregious, but do you see what I mean? How we're listening to words that people choose. Okay, so good stuff. All right, 10 seconds. I'll count you down. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Tracy, I'm going to come right to you. Tracy, what did your parents, I'll start it like everybody else did. What did your parents teach you about money? Had to earn it yourself. So tell me more when you say that. Okay. Okay. All right. Now, is that, and I'm asking you because I don't know, is that some version of do what's fair? I'll put half in, you put the other half? Is that fair or? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Tracy, remind me, do you have kids? So what's your rule with them? Oh, same thing. Same thing. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Because, see, here's the hardest part for me is I don't know if we have money or not. I don't know. I'm back to you. Well, we must not, right? Because we're not supposed to tell anybody? Or I just have to assume, because that's the same thing for me. I always had a job. I mean, somebody's like, when did you start? Well, I don't know. My first job was after I did the thing with my granddad. I got it was in seventh grade and eighth grade. Well, how come? Well, I think I had to work. Yeah, that's it. I had to work because look at my dad. Look at him. I had to work. Well, did you really have to? Well, I don't ever remember them, but we just assume that's what we're supposed to. Now, guess what I assume about my kids? Because guess how I was, you guys all know my life story, right? So what do I think just naturally my kids should do? Well, sure they should. Absolutely. They should have full-time jobs. Because I had a full-time job, didn't I? And my wife has to remind me what's their personality types, how does that work? So the first thing we want to do is practice on our kids and our family. We don't want to practice on our employees because that's malpractice. But we want to practice on our family and friends. Julie, I know you've shared this with me before, but remind me what your family taught you about dollars and cents. Now, when I hear example, I hear we kind of had to read their minds. We didn't really have to read their mind, but they didn't have to tell us. It was, because did they tell you, now, Julie, here's what you do. You save 10% of everything you get. Another 10% I want you to invest. Another 10% I want you to give to the church. And the other 70% I want you to pay for fixed income. Did they say that to you? You just probably... Yeah. 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 Mm. And I bet you've never done that, right, Julie? Oh, with your per diem. Oh! But do you see where we get our learned behavior? And again, it's not a bad thing, but we have to look at how that served our parents. But then in other cases, how didn't it serve our parents? Because that's our mission is because guess who I want to be like? But Abba said, do you think I've ever said, I'm not gonna treat my kids how my dad did? You kids get to work. Okay. But that's what we want to find out. My dad provided me with a great work ethic. My mom taught me how to, it's not what you say, it's how you make people feel. So we want to take those strengths and those qualities so that we can get to know who we are so we can read that through others. Because our challenge, as all of you have discussed, it's not really a challenge, but Julie, my guess is that served you really well. That has served no different than you, Tracy. That served you well, but there's other pieces when we're around other people. Because Tracy, I heard you say, well, other parents, they just gave them $500. That made me mad as heck. But that served that family well, whatever that was. So it's important that we focus not so much on what other people think about us, what we think about us. And I think that's the hardest piece. So let's talk, again, I told you I'd take a break at the top of the hour. So let's talk about the 4 personality types. So there's the dominant personality. Now the reason I put these percentages is for you compliance. So please write those in there so you know. And if you want to know where I got this, it was from the Wikipedia from Charles Moulton, who discovered this. That's where it came from. For your dominants and all the others that could care less, here we go. Dominants, they make up 16% of the population. Typically, there are CEOs, there are leaders, they're the Donald Trumps of the world. Our influencer, and by the way, this number's growing the fastest. Now, the reason I think it's growing the fastest is because we think we're influencers and we communicate with people by texting and Facebook and LinkedIn and all that. But I would say I don't really think we're communicating at all. You know, I don't think we are. I just sent a note to my wife, hey, be sure you pay this bill. Text me if you got this. Please, please text me if you got this. Versus, pick up the phone. Okay, but we believe that we're good communicators. Oh, I liked them on Facebook. You know their last name? No, but that doesn't matter. I don't want to know that. Okay. Steadies make up 21% of personalities. The other personalities compliant 22%. Now, typically what I'll do, and Sarah, is that right? Have you been to the class before? Me neither. So this will be a good experience for both of us, all right? So typically what I do is I put these two together because I hang out in the D, but I've got a pretty good feel if you're steady and compliant, those categories kind of fit together. So the first thing, Beth, when I run into a steady or compliant, not in this room, but in an environment, I have to be quiet. It's hard to be quiet, even when I say to be quiet. But that's what I have to focus on. So when I'm around Chloe, now, when we're in a room like this, I like to make her feel uncomfortable, just to get her out of her comfort zone. But if I'm working with Chloe, it's the first time I've had any dealings with Winco, I'm going to give her a lot of space, and I'm going to give her time to think, and she's going to, believe it or not, do all the talking, because all I'm going to do is ask questions. It would be no different than I did with Isabel. Tell me more, because Isabel had a different version of an influencer than Lowell did. But I have to be a good listener. Conversely, these kind of hang out a little bit together, kind of. But it's not unusual to have somebody that's influencer and steady. Hey, have a great day. Why are you calling? want to know that. But those are pieces that we want to look at. So this is the breakdown of the 4 personality types, and this is the same breakdown in your business. Typically, I've found CFOs are compliant. My guess is, Julie, that your mom was compliant. She followed the rules. That's my guess. Well, did she sneak a little extra per diem? Just no one will know. I'm going to get a T-shirt and I'll dummy it up. I can't believe you said that, Dave. Yeah, you know how you get the receipt there and you put a couple extra in your pocket in case you get in a bind? You're probably mad. Look, you're looking over here. Is there somebody that's her boss over there? Did you hear what he said? No. They follow the rules. That's why I need to have them in a position that's my rule follower. The steadies are put in a position where they don't get too high, they don't get too low. Sometimes that's called HR. Well, why is it? We can't have somebody in HR that's, come on, you guys, let's go. All right, we're going to have an education film here. Let's see what the hell you think of it. That's not how we can be. You guys are even getting up to tell you how loud I'm talking. But we can't get too high or we can't get too low. Now, our influencers are the director of first impressions. A good example, I was out with Beth. What was the name of the coffee store we were at? Coffee Studio. Beth was there. Dave, what are you doing? That's important in her role that she has those. It makes people feel good about themselves. And then the dominants, we can't have everybody that's dominant. We can't, but we still have to have them because they're the visionaries. They see stuff happen before it even happens. So that's our mission on those 4 personality types. So I'm going to share a story. I'll probably get in trouble a couple of them. I'll work backwards. So I'm going to talk a little bit about compliance. So remember, compliance, follow the rules. They have to be right. Now that's not a criticism because remember, the CFO has to be right. So in your notes, right, compliance, follow the rules, they have to be right. So I typically tell compliance they're right. No different, Brad, than I tell dominance, you win. Because once I get past that, and Beth, let's think about from your end, talking down to you or coddle you. Once I get past that, because that's not really what they meant, as compliance, they're right. But you must have had a strategy, Lowell, for not giving Beth love. Tell me more. Okay, so you notice I told Lowell he was right. To him, it's coddling, it's right. But now I'm going to allow him to have a strategy. We went to training and 41% of your employees are influencers. Well, damn it, why can't they all be like me? No, it would be, I don't appreciate them not responding like I would respond. Okay? So now we have to look at it and allow him to experience that. No different than Beth. Hey, Beth, I love your attitude, everything that's about you. I need you to remember with Lowell, it's not about the person, it's about the problem. See how I changed the dynamics of that, Tracy? It's not about the person, because if we're an influencer, and you guys have heard, oh, they take everything personal. Sure they do. My daughter's already texted me twice today. I didn't get back to her. Dad, I love you. And I didn't have time to tell, you might say, well, Dave, you're not a very, well, remember, she texted me 7 times. And I have to respond back to her. She doesn't think I love her. But remember, it's not about the person, it's about the problem. So we have to look at that. So in my particular case, earlier today in the class before you, I have somebody that I trained that's he thinks he's steady, but he's really compliant. And I was telling the story how I worked with him on being dominant. I have to say, his name is Jim, and to be dominant, I changed his name to Jimbo. And there was somebody at Gowan Field, he was a captain, that he had called on the phone and he was upset at him. The captain was, because he does cold calling. The captain, Allie, literally said, look, I don't want no salesman. He hung up. So I coached him up. We waited a month, and I said, Jimbo, call him up and say, I'm Jimbo. How you doing, Captain? And Captain responded to that. So just a little bit ago on our last break, I went back and talked to Jim. Now remember, compliance, follow the rules. So remember that. Hey, Dave, by the way, you know that story you told? That wasn't Gowan Field. That was Napa, and he was a colonel. Now, Beth, think about how I reacted initially as a dominant or an influencer. So I went dominant. Look, you don't understand what I'm trying to do in that class. And as an influencer, oh, Jim, I'm sorry. I hope you're not mad at me. But remember, I have to follow the rules. Now, I got in trouble for something else. Here, I'm going to turn my microphone off just in case Cody's recording this. hours. You're a rule breaker. So the last piece is in our last break, I went next door because I'm doing something for 21 days. I'm going to try not to complain for 21 days. And then I'm going to buy my wife just a small gift every single day. It's the 21 days of Christmas. So I thought I'd go next door to the, there's a, what do they call it, consignment store. And I can always just find a little gift and stuff. And I went in and I go, something's different in here. So I went in and they had changed everything and it was all compliant. They'd moved the cash register to the back and I looked at the lady back there and she was doing this. Now for some of you, that's okay. But for me as an influencer, and as a director of First Impressions, what do I expect people to do when I walk in to a building like that? Yeah. Hey, how you doing? And I thought to myself, I made a semicircle and I walked out and said, you know, I probably am not going to come here anymore. Remember, nobody said a word to me. They have all the stuff, but remember, in the absence of facts, I fill in the blanks. So we have to get in a habit of thinking, what is going on? Not, Abase, I think I can read your mind. So the best thing you can say beyond tell me more, in the case of a steady. Now, I'm trying to think, Chloe, are you more steady or compliant? Oh, I put her in a corner. Are you more steady, compliant, or dominant? Of those three, what would you say you are? More compliant. Who, do I have any steadies? Anybody? Okay. So my best move with Tracy is, just because I'm not sure what you're thinking, okay, I might say this. So Tracy, remind me your role in your company. What's your role? And the department is? Retail, say again? Retail pricing. So rather than try to read Tracy's mind because she's steady, what's one thing she's not going to show me a lot of? What don't steadies typically show? Say again, whoever was that said that. Emotion. They don't show emotion. So if I try to read Tracy's mind, and I look at her and go, is she happy? Is she sad? Guess what she is? She's steady. So I need to say, Tracy, tell me what you're thinking about the training thus far. Is that a good thing or bad? What would you like to have? And when you say the same thing, tell me more. Okay. Yeah. But it's important I don't tell her what to think. And did you notice my body language? Where'd my body language go? Where did I move? Because Tracy's got to feel safe. Now, she still doesn't feel safe because she's in front of everybody. But remember, in a process over time, I've got to build a relationship with Tracy where I can say, tell me what you're thinking. And it's safe, Tracy, for her to tell me what you're thinking. Because I'll tell my wife that, and I'll say, well, why are you thinking that? Well, why'd you ask me to tell you what you're thinking? So be careful when you ask somebody, tell me what you're thinking. Because I always say, hey, if I want your opinion, Min, I'll give it to you, okay? So that'll take you a minute to catch that, but you'll get in there. Okay, I'm proud of you, Min, I'm proud of Min. So that's what I want you guys to think about, is dealing with those personalities. All right, so we're going to take a break. We'll be back here at 11:07. 11:07. When we come back, we're going to go, and so a lot of you are like, I'm hearing them talking code. What's D? What's I? We're going to show you a picture of these people. We're going to tell you what their biggest fear is, how to be able to have a conversation with them. And then as we wrap up, I'm going to have you pick a person in each category that you either work with or at home that could be some version of a challenge or maybe not. So Abase, I'll just pick a steady that you work with. So what's the name of a steady personality that you work with? Okay. How about in your family? Any family members? Okay. So what's Grandpa's first name? Louis. Okay, that would have been my guess. Your name's Abase. I was thinking Bill or Tom. You know, Louis. Yeah. Louis. Come on, Abase. So we're going to write Louis up here. So some traits of him: he doesn't like change. He can't make up his mind. So we give him 3 choices. Next time I meet with Lewis, what am I going to do? What's my action step going to be? So be thinking about that a little bit. So you will have this takeaway. We're going to go through the 4 personalities, and then each one of you will write down. So Tracy, who's a dominant you work with or a family member? There, I put her on the spot again. My fault. So who's either a dominant, an influencer, or somebody that's compliant that you would pick of those 3? So one, either give me a dominant, either give me a compliant, or an influencer. Paul, and what's his personality? I need Paul to come to this training. His name comes up a lot. No, I'm just teasing you. So he's a D. So what do we have? So we'll talk about the D's. He likes to win. Okay. His biggest fear is somebody's taking advantage of him. His philosophy is ready, fire, aim, whole bunch of stuff. Okay. He might come in and start a bunch of fires and leave. Whole bunch of things like that. So we're going to talk about what he does and then how we can get him to work for us. That's our mission. Okay? So I'll see you back here. I said 7. Let's go at 10 after. 10 after, be back here, and we'll take it from there as we continue on. All right? Did somebody say it was an hour class? Well, I better start talking faster. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of start here. So as you guys are coming in, you didn't miss anything. But I want to look at a couple of, I think I have a handful of your assessments here. So just as a reminder so we can take a look at them. Keep in mind as you, with the personalities, and Heather, I don't know if you find this, but sometimes I say, well, I got a different personality at home than I do at work. Do you ever find that? Or are you, I heard, you, yeah? Sure. Absolutely. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, excellent feedback. So remember that there's your natural personality style. What are you when you're at home? What's your natural personality style? Then the other one is what we call when we're under pressure. So Abasay, I'm just going to grab your personality assessment because I happen to have it. Abasay is pretty steady, and this is his natural style. So Abasay, and I don't know, how many of you work with Abasay, or do you just know him when he's here? Does anybody here work with you? Or okay, there's a few of you. Man, let me ask you, does a lot of stuff bother Abasay, or he doesn't get too high or doesn't get too low? That would be my guess. Doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. Is he pretty good at following the rules? Or does he kind of make it up as he goes? He follows the rules. Now, under pressure, it's interesting where he goes, a little bit of his steadiness comes down a little bit and is compliant, but ironically enough, under pressure in the, what do I call it, the showroom? Where is it you work? The war room. What's that called? Okay. You become a little more dominant. You tend to maybe take charge under pressure. Where maybe in this room, I'll kind of give my opinion, but I'm not going to. But in there, so under pressure, Abasay's a little more dominant under pressure. So at home, you might be, not too bad, but under pressure, you might get in there. It's kind of what Leafy said. Let's look at another one here. And I know some of you complain, or I didn't allow him to look at that. He's breaking the rules. So too bad for you. So we're going to deal with that. Let's see. Isabel, remind me your last name. Is it Gantz? Okay. Oh, wow. Oh, my word. Oh. Now, Isabel kind of follows the rules. See this blue? I've never seen it this high before, all right? So the good news for Isabel in her role, this is perfect. She follows the rules. She's a rule follower. Under pressure, a little bit, maybe not, and I shouldn't say not as much, but when people go, well, Isabel, I need to, can you help me out with this? She's going to help them out. Her dominance stays pretty much the same. The only thing that I would see looking at this, under pressure, you might not be quite as much as an influencer. What I'm looking at right now is your body language. See how your body language is? Now her fail-safe is that. Okay, that's her fail-safe under pressure. So that's something to keep in mind. Whoever works with Isabel, we've got to give her that space, let her know that she's right. We've got to let her know that she's right, because that's the most important thing. She is right. But now at the same time, if I'm a D, I still have to be able to work with it. She's right, but I want to know what her strategy is on whatever it might be. And then I've got to give you space and time to think about it. Let's look at one more here, just because they're kind of fun to go, oh, wow, that is, I didn't know you followed the rules that much. So, where's Lowell at? Okay, so Lowell follows the rules. Can you guys believe that, for crying out loud? But the interesting part is how dominant you are. That would be a surprise to me. Lowell, my guess for you would be, you spend a lot of time coaching, training, managing on the phone, meaning your team's virtual. Or do you see them face to face? Okay. What would be if I was reading tone and tempo? Did you hear what he just said? Yes. No. What if I'm an influencer on the other end? Lowell, how's your day going? Let me guess. Fine. Lowell, are you there? Yes. So I just want you to be cognizant. This isn't to embarrass Lowell, but as a dominant, he's going to really have to watch tone and tempo. Because now 93% of your communication's tone and tempo. So you might want to, this would be my suggestion to you, is to go to, well, I got to be careful. Does Winco sell digital recorders? Probably not. So one time I said something about go someplace and get flowers, and you guys yelled at me, you come to the Winco. What are you talking about? I'm sorry, my bad, okay? So go to the Walgreens and get a $25 digital recorder and record your next training or coaching. You do a Monday call, or when do you usually have your call? Wednesday, okay? And I bet he knows exactly what time, and I'll tell you what, if you're not on the phone, I'm starting without you. How do you know? I don't, I'm just guessing. So I want you to record that and then have somebody else along with you listen to it and say, what does that tone and tempo sound like? Because remember, in the absence of facts, I fill in the blanks. Uh-oh, Lowell's in a mood. But see, I don't have any idea. That's your personality. But that's what you've really got to, and those of you that manage on the phones, email's another one. Okay? Now some of you, Beth, you may put a smiley face on your email. I have no idea. But there may be a smiley face, have a happy day, all this. Now some of you may have paragraphs and bullet points, and it's 6 pages long when you send me an email. I'm like, and guess how long my emails are? I put it in the subject line. You know, and people go, oh, Dave's mad. Well, that's just, to me, if it's long in the subject line, I'm going to call you. So we have to be cognizant of who we're communicating with via email. So if Beth sends me something with a smiley face, I need to respond, hope you're having a great day. If Isabel asks me for something that's detailed and it's paragraph and paragraph, I hate that, but guess how I've got to respond to you? I've got to respond bullet point. But also if I put something to you in the subject line that says I need a P&L or a flash, right now, you need to get it to me. So I know what it is. Look, I don't need to know the fix. I just need a flash. Where are we at on the 15th? I need to know where that's at. Versus well, it depends. Now, you know, December last year we were here, and December next year, and we haven't got our book. Just give me a number. Because remember, I'm D. Just give me a number. So I want you guys to think about that if you do a lot of email. Read the email of the person that's coming to you. Don't send an email back, well, that's how I communicate. I'll get in trouble. Well, maybe, but they won't read what you're saying. They'll read into what you're saying. Same for you, Lowell. You might have to listen to that. And I don't know. I haven't listened to your calls. It may be awesome. I may go, hey, Lowell, you're hitting it out of the park. That's what I thought. Damn it. Anyhow, that's what we want to look at. All right. So, Dan, real quick, hit me on the light. I want to keep the pace going. So the dominant, Donald Trump, and Leafy, you're the one that doesn't watch TV. This guy's going to run for president. No, okay, I'm just teasing Leafy. But I love you, Leafy. I'm glad you're here. So dominant has to win. Their biggest fear is they're going to be taken advantage of. So keep this in mind when we're dealing, what's that guy's name? Paul, I'm guessing? Okay. So we have to make sure he knows that when we're dealing with him, he's going to win. But here's the other thing Chloe's determined. Hey, Paul, you know what I like about you? You're a lot like me. You don't want anybody taking advantage of you. That's why I built a wall around us so you win. Now, I need you to listen up. And then just keep it real short and concise. Because remember, Paul doesn't want bullet points and paragraphs. His favorite movie is Pulp Fiction. He wants to know the ending before it even starts. Oh, I think I'll watch this. Okay? So think of the ending in mind with him. He doesn't care what kind of pie it is. Just give me a piece of chocolate. So think in terms of that. The influencer, they need to be loved. Now the interesting thing, Beth, I was sharing a story with you in last class. I said Beth always wears some cool neckwear. Sometimes she wears, I call them the Barney Rubble, the Flintstones. Sometimes you have, but there's something really cool. You wear. What are you giggling about? Okay. Yeah, but they're those big rocks and they're turquoise colors. And I said, I've got to make sure I notice Beth's neckwear. And lo and behold, what do you have to do? My scarf matches perfectly. But it's important, men, that I acknowledge that. Okay? Because she might be thinking, does my outfit look okay? Or am I? She might be. It's none of my business what she thinks. But it works a little better if I respond to that. Conversely, Isabel would just assume that I don't even talk to her today. She'd be just fine, right? Just I'll sit over here, don't talk to me, don't call on me, and Chloe's hiding right behind you. Please don't call on me anymore, okay? But we have to acknowledge that, see where that is. But in our influencer, they need to be loved. Now, I can't remember, Allie, was it you that asked me? They talk a lot, okay? Now, some of you that are compliant or steadies, let me see what that, I got to talk down to them. Or no, not talk. I got to coddle them. So here's what I want you two to think. This is just for Lowell and Isabel. Write this down. Tell me more. Now be careful. They will tell you more, but you just have to do this. And I think you two are good at this. Okay? All right? Well, Dave, what if they keep talking? Well, we'll talk about that later on. We got to do a pattern interrupt. No different than I can say, just like here. Hey, Beth, what are you doing this weekend? Yeah. What hockey game? Awesome. Beth, I can't move. I'm sorry, but right in the middle I interrupted. Where were we? Oh, we were talking about the influencer. So Lowell, did you see what I did while she was talking? Because remember, for influencers, they don't even notice. She was talking about something. I said, hey, what are you doing this weekend? She told me, we're going to the Steel. Beth, I can't believe I interrupted you. Where were we? Oh, we were talking about influencers. And see how I got her back on track? Now, if I did that to you, Lowell, you'd go, hey, that's rude. What the heck's he doing? I have something to say. But I don't do pattern interrupts for Lowell for compliance and steadies. I just do that for influencers. And Beth doesn't feel bad. Maybe now you're like, oh, I can't believe he did. He asked me about the steelheads. He asked me about Christmas shopping. Oh, and I even helped him to remember that he needs to go to the next slide. Want me to change the slides for you? Okay. Steadies. Okay, here's the biggest challenge. Julie, do you remember who this is? Yeah, lady. Yeah, that lady. Julie doesn't watch a lot of TV either, okay? All right. Anybody know her name? Martha Stewart. Now, by the way, when you say, hey, Martha, what's she thinking? We really can't tell unless we say, well, I know what she's thinking. Julie told me she doesn't want to go to jail again. All right? So this being said, we can't really tell what she's thinking. So we have to ask her, kind of like what we did with Tracy, Martha, tell me what you're thinking. And then we just have to, Abba say, we just have to be quiet and listen. And Lowell, that might be your challenge in your meetings, because if you ask them, tell me what you're thinking in Portland, I don't know where you're, but in Portland, tell me what you're thinking. Then you have to take notes and listen and write that down and play back what you heard. We have to give them 3 options, good, better, best, or whatever that might be. You guys hear me do that a lot in here, but I think it gives you more comfort because steadies don't like change. They don't like change. So it's important when we deal with steadies, Chloe, I'm going to enhance what you're doing with Paul. It's not, I need you to change. I need you to come in with a big hammer, and when you see Paul, you hit him right here. That's a change, but we've got a way to enhance. And the other thing is they tend to be stubborn. Okay? They tend to be stubborn. Family and team are very important. So when you're dealing with steadies, talk about helping the team, help the family, we want to enhance. All right, let's slide over to Mr. Spock. Okay? Yes, ma'am? What would a steady's biggest fear be? Change. Change. So think about that, just like kind of in the seats where I think you 3 and normally Isabel would be here, you guys kind of stick together. Where you sit is all I'm talking about. Well, then it's safe, right? We're in a different row, but it's safe. Okay, it's safe, then it's okay. Who's the outsider on the end there from Capital? Who's she? Is it okay? Min, why don't you talk to her and make sure it's okay for us? Okay? She's asking a lot of questions, too. I hope Dave doesn't pick on this row. So that would be the biggest thing, Megan, is that their biggest fear. Yeah, I hate that when he does that. So Megan, you want to make sure, in this case, it's not change, it's enhancing. So ladies, I've brought a new member to the team to enhance. Guess what you don't have to do anymore? You ladies don't have to talk because Megan's the spokesperson. Oh, and Megan's like, yeah, the fact is I should be teaching this class, all right? But that's what we want to have. That's how we set it up versus, hey, ladies, there's somebody new coming to the team. All right? She's going to ask a lot of questions and want to know what you guys do to make a living. Buckle up. How's it, and Chloe's kind of smart. She's like, no, she's not. No, I'll do it. No, she's not. She doesn't have my password. That's not going to happen. Dan, did you have a question? Sure. Mm-hmm. Sure. Hmm. Fine. Wow. Dan, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. So let's look at our compliance. Let's slide over one. Our compliance, we can't criticize them. Isabel, I don't like how, and I don't know if you have to do taxes. Do you ever have to do any kind of tax form or any forms you have to fill out? Do you ever get in Excel? Are you very good in Excel? Or what would be some sort of data entry? Tell me. Well, you were looking at Beth for permission. I thought, I hope Beth isn't in charge of our compliance. Yes, for work. You did, okay. So, Isabel, tell me what would be your skill set at Winco. What is it that you do? What do you do? Yeah, so tell me what that, just so I know what that would be. Okay. You've been doing it all wrong. Here's how I want to do it is I'll leave you voicemails and let you know who's coming or going. Okay? Just mark it down on the board. Okay? Now, did you even see that her facial expression even when I said you've been doing it all wrong? No. So it's important we know she's been doing it all right. Okay? Don't criticize. So our D's win, and you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But now, Chloe's, when I go into the discussion, you must have a strategy on waiting 15 days to give me the reports or whatever it is I want to know. Now, you may have one, or you may go, well, shoot, Dave, I didn't even think of that. Rather than me say, where's my report? It's 15 minutes late or 15 days late. Your first reaction is, what am I doing? Criticize. So we don't want to criticize. Their emotionality, they'll go to anger. We don't want them to go to anger because my guess is with Isabel, she doesn't get angry very often, but if she does, look out. That's my guess. I don't have any idea. But now with the dominants, they go to angry all the time. That's okay because it's sport for them. To get in arguments and all. I mean, our family, when we talk about politics, it's great. We get in, and my uncle's a U.S. senator, so I'm like, he sits on that, and I'm going to tell him, and he's going to tell me. But we walk away, and it's fun. But all the steadies in our house, they're going to kill each other. I don't know what's going to happen, and then we walk out, we go, hey, let's go have a beer or whatever. You two just had an argument. You can't do that. But compliance, it's different. When you get mad, and your statute of limitations on being upset at somebody is about 50 years. Right? So remember that. That's important. So that's what we want to be able to look at as we go through this. So just as a reminder, steadies, please give them choices. Good, better, best, or whatever it might be. But typically, and I'll just use Tracy as an example, I'm not going to tell her what's good, better, best unless she asks. I'm going to say, hey, Tracy, want to go to lunch today? Okay. Now, the biggest mistake I could say say, because I know her, is what? Yeah. Where do you want to go to lunch? Okay. So you hear what that is? Now, if I said, hey, we're going to the Taco Bell, now she might nod her head, and then we get to the Taco Bell, and she just has a soda, and I go, Tracy, aren't you going to have anything? Well, I'm a vegetarian. I thought you knew that. I mean, along that line. So now I position it. Tracy said absolutely she'd like to go to lunch. All right, so Tracy, the Sonic's real close. There's a place down the road that's called Steve's, or we could go to the Applebee's. So Applebee's, Steve's, it's more of a breakfast place, or we could go to the Sonic. I want you to think about it for just a minute, but I also need you to know once you make up your mind, it's okay to change it. Okay, so that's okay too. If you decide to change your mind, that's okay. Okay, so they don't like change. They want enhancement. Okay, they're stubborn because she has her favorite place she wants to eat, but she's probably not going to tell me. But afterwards, Chloe might say, hey, how was lunch with Dave? Oh, guess where we went? You know, some version of that, or it might be, it was okay. And that's okay for Chloe too, because she doesn't really, oh, whatever. But Beth, on the other hand, why did you tell him to go? So we've got to be able to have those pieces. By the way, Tracy, where did you decide you want to go? Applebee's. So notice how remember initially when I asked her where she wanted to go to lunch, you decide, and I gave her space, and she also knows, let's say you want to change your mind, what have I given you permission to do? Change your mind, that's okay. But she has the parameters into the three pieces. Now, I want to make sure you guys know as you're coaching up your team, that doesn't mean, well, when would you like to come to work? At 9, 9:30, or 10? Would it make more sense for you to be here at 7:45? 5 till, or right at 8 o'clock? What makes more sense? So that's the question, that's how you would position it to them. So if somebody's constantly coming in late, we move the game a little bit, but 7:45, 7:50, or 8 o'clock, what works best for you? Well, 8 o'clock would work. 8 o'clock. Now, Abbas say, I don't know about you, but I typically, I'm a couple of minutes late or something like that. How would you like me, I hate to use the word discipline. What have I just used? The word discipline. I hate to use the word discipline, so I won't use that stern reminder, or what should I do if you come in at 8:05? What would you like to see happen? Yeah. Abbas say, that's okay, but I've been telling you for 30 days, and that doesn't seem to work. My biggest concern is it'll be taken out of my hands. What would be a better reminder? Because telling you is not working, at least in my mind, because I've been telling you for 30 days, and you've been getting in 8:15, 8:20. What would be a better reminder? Okay? So now, Abbas say, I happen to know after looking, you've got some steady in there, right? So I have backed you in the corner. But I need some version of, you need to decide what's going to happen. Because remember, I can't motivate you. Because in your mind, when do you show up at work? I guess it's 15, 20 minutes before work. I mean, you may never, like me, I'm never early, but I'm never late. I got here, time for class. Cody was freaking out, but it's like, you told me class starts at 9. It's 8:59. Let's get her going. Okay? But I'm not late. And remember what our parents taught us? So, Leafy, did your parents teach you to show up late for work? Or whenever? Okay, so the learned, or your antennae said show up for time. Now, my dad, I've told you, is a veterinarian. He'd just get there as quick as he can. He'd always tell people he's busy and running, and guess what I did? Hey, and I was in the news business where there was a deadline, so I really liked it. Everything was going to heck, and it was 4 minutes till I was on the air, 3 minutes, and count me down. Hey, everybody, welcome. I like that. But that's where I learned that from. But we've got to find out what it is we can do to get our employer or an employee. Notice how I put that two ways. He's the best boss that ever worked for me. Or she's the best accountant that ever worked for me. But that's what we have to do. So that's what we're looking at are the choices. Now remember with the compliant, you're right, but so what? There's the other side. You're right, but so what? I've got people that, so we have to find a system that works in that particular case, what we want to look at. All right, now Julie, this is one of Julie's favorite slides. Because remember last time I was I was telling what the character was, Julie, and I said, this was a jet. And then I'm like, no, it's a Chinese character. And Julie was, compliant to point out what is the character of this. So do you remember what this symbol was for? Yeah, well, good. I'm proud of you. It's to listen. So remember, the most important thing you can do with your team is to listen. Obviously, the biggest part of the symbol is with your ear. We have to listen. No mind reading. So stop mind reading. Chloe doesn't like me to call on her. I don't know that. I don't know. I need to ask her. All right? Kirby kind of follows the rules. Fact is, normally Kirby and Lowell are right there, but we've changed the dynamics. Kirby's like, what's he going to do? Is he going to call on me? What's going on? I don't know. But that's what I want to find out, so I have to use my eyes, my undivided attention, and my heart. Some of it's with your gut. So here's what I'm sharing with you. When in doubt, they're usually steady, but trust your gut. Trust your first instinct. So Megan, you might say, well, I'm not really sure if they're an influencer or I think they're dominant, but I'm not. So trust your gut. I think they're dominant. You have to go for them. So as dominant, what's their biggest fear? You remember? Yeah, you can look at your notes. Okay. And what do they have to do when they play games? Any kind of game. Football, basketball. Now, Megan, would you say that might describe you a little bit? Are you competitive? That would be my guess. And somewhat of an influencer, too. Okay, dominant influencer. Hey, let's get this right. Because one of the things that was brought up to me, now part of the advantage of being a dominant influencer, you're going to ask a lot of questions. Hey, the I's not capitalized. What the heck's that all about? Now, some of you are thinking it. You just don't say it. But that's what our dominant and our influencers are able to ask that question. Now, as a dominant, I'm like, I don't know. That's how it is in the book, so I put it there. Well, now I've got to start doing some research and find out why. I told you copyright infringement. That's the real reason for me. But those are things we have to look at. So I want you to get in the habit of using your eyes, using your heart. Now, for some of you S's and C's, your heart's going to I'm going to challenge you a little, Lowell. As a D, too, you're going to have to tell some of your people you love them. See the look on his face? Yeah. Okay. But what's Lowell's shoe size have to be at work? He's going to have to extend it based on, so typically what area, so I'm on a conference call. What cities would I be on if I'm joining you? Portland's one. Okay. So one of the natural questions I would do, and this is pretty easy, Lowell. I know it's going to break into your time and break your agenda, but I might say, who's your guy in Portland? Okay, give me one. Joe. Hey, Joe, what's the weather like in Portland today? Uh-oh, Joe's going to talk and well, just ask him. Joe, what are you doing this weekend? Now, in the case of if I asked you, Lowell, what's the weather like in Boise? There you go. And I determined right away that he doesn't want to have an influencer relationship. Beth, however, what's the weather like today? Well, do you hear the difference? It's chilly. It's been raining. Lowell, it's cold. I don't know what the weather has to do with our conference call. But it has everything to do with it because you need to communicate with your people how they want to be communicated with. Not how you want them to be communicated with. Because remember, what did your dad teach you about how you communicate with people? Can you guys believe that? Okay. How does Lowell communicate with people? Short, sweet, to the point. My dad doesn't even communicate. That's why he's so good with veterinarians, because he can talk to animals. Okay? But my mom, conversely, writes thank you notes. And so when my mom sends me a thank you note, guess what I got to tell her? Thank you, Mom, for the thank you note. Okay? But if I don't, but I know those personalities. That's what we're running into. So I want you to practice on family members. So I want you to take the next few minutes here, and then we'll go around about 4 minutes before. I want you to fill this out. So I'm going to have you help me a little bit. And then somebody different than Paul, I hope. Who's a D that you work with? Now, it doesn't have to be work. It could be at home. It could be a family member, kind of like Abba say. It was his grandfather that was steady. Who's your D? Your boss. Remind me your boss's name. Tammy. Okay, so some characteristics. Tammy needs to win. Tammy doesn't want to be taken advantage of. Tammy tends to talk and not listen. I mean, go through all those pieces with that. So how are you going to approach that? Well, the biggest thing is you need to become like who? Yeah, I'm talking about when you have a discussion with her. Because you want to make sure Tammy knows she's going to win. How's she going to win? By listening to what the heck you say. So how's the easiest way to make somebody listen? Now, tell them to take notes. So let's role play. You're going to be Tammy. Hey, Tammy, you know one thing I like about you? You're a lot like me. Now notice I'm standing up. So you're going to have to stand up. So come out here and stand up with me. All right? Come on, Min. You can do it. You can do it. Let's give Min a hand. Let's help her out. Come on, Min. Chloe had to do it last time. Now, Min's a lot taller than me in person, but here. So, Tammy, what I like about you is you're a lot like me. You don't want anybody taking advantage of you. All right? So I want to set this up so we can win. Fact is, you guys can blame me. I went to this class today on disc. Oh, not that class. Let me tell you, I should be training that class. You're absolutely right. You should. But here's a way we can win. What I'm going to need you to do, and Tammy, I'm afraid to ask you to do this. Is it okay if I ask you to do this? Are you just saying that? Okay. Well, that's what I appreciate. I knew she was going to do that. So, Tammy, I'm going to give you this. Is that okay? Okay, I need you to take the lid off of it. Okay. Now, this is your piece of paper, and I want you to write down the 3 things that I say. So now, men, out of character, what's the 3 things you need your boss to do that would help you? Now, I'm not saying give you more money and more time off. What are the 3 things she needs to do to help you out? Okay, write that down. Listen. Now, we've already solved that, right? Because what's she going to start doing in your meetings? She's going to write it down. Write down. Listen. Okay? What else do you need her to do? Okay, don't interrupt. Write it down. Now notice how loud I'm speaking too, right? Because I need to be like who? Not like men. And give me one other one. She is a C. Did I spell that right? What's one other thing that she needs to do? This one's probably the most important would be my guess. Okay, no cursing. Write it down. Okay? Okay, now we're all kind of chuckling at it, but guess what? Guess what? What's her name? Tammy? Go ahead and sit down. Let's give her a big hand. Big hand. What do you think Tammy has no idea that she does? She has no idea. Well, let's hold on, though. If she has to write it down, it becomes what? That's real now. And I heard all of you kind of go, we kind of chuckled, but Leafy didn't think it was too funny. Because it's written down. And notice how you just kept 3 bullet points. I need you to listen. Now here's the easiest way to listen. Write it down. Don't interrupt. But the most important thing I need you to do is I'm uncomfortable with the cursing. Now, I'm not uncomfortable. I'm going to go to HR or anything like that. I just don't like that in this environment. Is that okay? And speak up. Now remember, she's going to pout for a little bit. But the good things about D's are their statute of limitations of being mad aren't that long. C's, it's a long time. But with the D, you need, well, Dave, what if she gets mad? Good. She needs to get mad. She needs to hear this. Okay, people that don't work at Winco, how many of are in here? Do you think she needs to hear this, that she needs to listen, not interrupt, and stop cursing? Megan, do you think she needs to hear that? Well, suggestions. If you're the boss and you're cussing all the time and not listening, would you want your people to... well, wait a minute. Megan's probably going, no, hell no. They need to listen. So I guess what I'm giving you permission for, we need to know. Because she can't read your mind, but you think she can. No different than what do you think you can read. Because I've already heard 2 of you go, this is going to get ugly. Buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy one. Okay, but as Chloe discovered in her conversation with Paul, it wasn't that bad. The hard part for Chloe is to keep doing it. Because remember, it was a monumental day when you did it, but I bet you haven't done it since then. You haven't, okay? So that's the hard part. Quit worrying about what might happen and say, I'm glad I did, not I wish I would have. Because does anybody in here not believe, and a lot of you don't know Min, but does anybody in here go, oh, Min's not a very good employee, I don't believe in her? Or do you all believe in her, even if you don't know her? Raise your hand and let Min know you believe in her. If you don't, that's okay. I do. Oh, guess who didn't raise her hand? Min. So, Min, if you can see, well, Min, think about that. That's just, if you don't believe in yourself, you can't do that. So, Min, do you believe in yourself? I need to see you raise your hand. What are you going to do? Now, right. Now, remember, Abba, say what I told you earlier about motivating? I can't make Min do it. I can only give her the tools. But to me, it can be life-changing. But again, I can't make any of you do this. So the hardest part in this training when you get done is, were you entertained or were you educated? And some of you at Winco said, yeah, Dave's a funny guy, this, that, and the other. But if you're not educated, you've wasted your 2 hours. You've wasted your 2 hours. But if you take one action step, I'm not saying run in there and say, but if nothing else, practice. Because to me, this is a big one. I'm telling you as a D, I need to hear this. Because if I start saying that around you, I might say it around my customers. I might say it around my CEO. And I need to be cognizant because, man, I can't see my own ears. I need feedback. As my daughter does every morning, Dad, you got some shaving cream there. Sure glad you told me. She doesn't go, I tell Dad he's got shaving cream on his ear. He might be mad. She's glad she told me. And that's how this has to be. Remember, you're not asking for more. Is anything you're asking here unreasonable? Are you an insubordinate employee? How long have you worked there? 6 months? How long? 15 years. Do you think it's reasonable to ask for that? But remember, I'm also saying, is it okay if I ask you to write this down? I'm asking your boss that. Is it okay if I ask you to take notes? Okay, now I know you already said no, but you're reading her mind. She must know it's pretty important if you're asking her to write it down. Because remember what dominants don't do. They don't listen. But if you tell them to write it down, they'll remember it. Remember what I always tell you, 90% of what you write down, you'll remember. So who can help me? Tracy, Chloe, anybody in here? Who will help Min at least to tap her, ping her, to be accountable with this? So remember, Min, we're not telling you to do it. We're just reminding you. Okay? So I'll leave it with this. You guys think about it. But what we're avoiding the most, I can tell you do. I can tell you do. Okay, so now remember, I'm not making you do this. I'm just reminding you. What you're avoiding the most is the greatest opportunity for success. Okay? All right. So go ahead. We've got our dominant. Write that in there. Write down who your influencer is. Write down who you're steady and you're compliant. So in my case, what's that? Yeah, so first of all, you're going to write their characteristics. So the compliant, they've got to be right. Okay? They need to know all the facts. So they've got to be right. They need to know all the facts. Their emotion could be anger. How am I going to deal with them based on my training? Sure. Yep, name. Right. Okay. And again, there's no right or wrong on this. The only reason I'm having you do this is so that you take action. So you say, here's the steady. All right, now I'm reading your mind now, Megan. You made kind of a face. Tell me what that meant. Your nose tickles? All right. So who would be your steady? Your brother. What's his name? So first thing Morgan needs is what? No. Steady. You weren't listening. Okay. So remember, she's a dominant, right? Min, what is she not doing? Listening. All right. So bring her back. Megan. So is your brother steady or is he dominant? Okay, what's your sister's name? Macy. So we have to give Macy 3 choices. So you're going to write that down. She doesn't like change, so we're going to help her enhance. And Macy's stubborn. Even though she doesn't act like it, she's stubborn. So how are you going to deal with it? All right. So go ahead and fill those in. We got about 11 minutes and we'll wrap up. If you have any questions, I'm wandering around here. For you steady and compliance that don't want to ask me questions because you're afraid I'll say your name out loud, you can always reach me at askdavetester.com. Okay, so it's askdavetester.com. And the reason I do that, and Isabel, it's a good point, is, well, I had a question, but I'm afraid, and not a bad thing, but I want to ask him, so feel free to go to that and say, and you don't even have to say your name. Just go, you were talking about something, can you explain it more, or how come? So it's askdavetester.com.